spotted wild Todd.
Alrighty, hello everybody and welcome back to OMLN4 Long No Tournament 4th edition. Happy finals week everybody! It is that time of the weekend, this lovely Saturday actually, where we will start to begin our finals weekend, and oh boy, what a match that's really bust open this weekend. I think we had a match beforehand in the losers bracket, but here we have a winners bracket match to actually determine who places top 2 guaranteed in this tournament, and what better players than the seeds speak for themselves. Seed 1 and Seed 2, Nepijin versus Pavin. Nep right now undefeated when it comes to points. They have completely swept everyone in their path, while Pavin has a bit of the hiccups on the way, but managed to pave their way here. As always, I'm Marasan, and commentating along with me is going to be none other than Dynascape. How's it going, Dynascape?
It is going good. Of course, this is the titular match of the weekend, being winners finals. Both players obviously trying to get into grand finals through the winners side, and what better way to get in than through beating the top seeded opponent for them, Pavin, obviously having to fight seed 1 Nepijin against Pavin. And at least I'm not sure in terms of community tournaments, but in an official sense, Nepijin Pavin last faced off in the MWC 2024 edition, where US was up against Thailand, and US had won, I believe, 6-1 if I'm not mistaken. And so, well, you know, Pavin trying to get a little revenge there. It's actually 7-1, so United States actually blowing out Thailand almost crazily enough 2 years ago. So Pavin's been always on the grind, been training a lot. Really excited to see what they could do for this match, because as we all know, Nepijin is kind of a beast at accuracy.
Yeah, I believe these two players have definitely been setting statements, like you mentioned. Their history in the Mania World Cup scene does not really need any introduction. That's where these two players have shined the most for their respective countries. Of course, Nepijin being probably the most top player, like one of the top prospects on that insane United States roster, who got that three-peat, winning 2025's Mania World Cup this year to really secure that second ever three-peated MWC history, with Pavin as well being a very strong staple for that Thailand roster. So now, getting rid of the teammates, they are going to duke it head-to-head here, and we're going to see a coordination to protect from Nepijin. Going off of what you said about their accuracy, I think it's best that Nepijin kind of stays in this range and go off of the maps that do require a bit more releasing, a bit more timing, to at least lower the ratio as much as they can to really solidify some points here. While Pavin going to focus on a more density ratio. This is what Pavin really strives the most. This is what they picked against Miyuka last week, and things went well for them with that 6-4 win. So I feel it's going to be, coordination versus density here. Maybe once those picks are up, they're gonna have to find a new, kind of like a new source of maps. But this is gonna be very interesting off these first protects.
Exactly, and with this first pick of Wildcard 2, I think this definitely lies within the Wildcard category more towards coordination. You have a lot of points that are extremely releasey. It kind of goes in and out of density in terms of node density, and so this could be a very good pick for Nepijin to kind of sniff out how Pavin's doing at this stage, because at the moment, I think that the semifinals to finals jump was quite large indeed, and so it's very important for Nepijin to snuff out what Pavin can do on a very control group map. And so with this information, if they're able to take the point pretty safely, he knows he can probably go into his protect very reliably.
Yeah, Nepijin just kind of testing the waters here off of their own kind of what they strive in the most here. And honestly, I mean, I did talk about it at the beginning of the stream. I feel with these two players, I mean, like you mentioned, Nep wanting to focus more accuracy wide, while Pavin a bit more on that density side. I feel honestly these players can pretty much spin a wheel honestly when it comes to these picks, and I mean it will still be neck and neck. And I know we talk on, or I know how I talked earlier about how Nep placing first on literally everything and getting that first seed, undefeated as of now. But I mean, I feel Pavin definitely can pull some tricks up their sleeves, especially with a map like this where lots of these shields, these flams as well, I feel very easy to slip up if you are not careful. But Nepijin is a consistency demon, and I feel it's just Pavin needs to really be on that same wavelength as Nep. And I saw a couple 200s on these graces, or from these flams from Pavin. Gonna drop their act just a bit down as this map does pick up in density nearing the back half.
Exactly, this is a very dense portion of the map where they go into the course. But Nepijin holding a pretty good lead of about 0.15, and that's going to turn into about 3,000 points of a lead, about 3,000 notes in, and, well, Pavin is definitely staying in range where if Nepijin slips up, something can happen. However, Pavin just kind of needs to minimize those 200s because I do see a lot of them in, at least on the Yorbar, it seems like it's a lot of early 200s, and also a miss to go with it. So now Pavin very much so on the back foot as we get into this last quarter of Last Journey.
Yeah, I feel like the game plan definitely here was to just make sure that you are, if you can't beat him, just make sure you are at least just behind, because I know Nepijin can also be prone to misses. We are all human at the end of the day, but with that break from Pavin, like you mentioned, that is going to really put a dent in the score difference. Even though Pavin still managing, although that miss was pretty detrimental to their act, by no stretch of the imagination bad at all. 99.58, still managing to stay relatively less than 0.2% in Nep's field. But I mean, Nep pulling off the full combo here. But still, I feel with that miss really put the nail in the coffin for Pavin. And I feel maybe if we saw a trade, things could be different, but Nep just being oh so consistent on this pick. Going to take an early first point here. 992.4. Wow, Nep.
Yeah, that is that's a score of all time. Two greats. Pavin 983, not too bad either, but definitely feeling the difficulty shift from last week. Just a little stat to bring up. Sonny, you know what Nepijin's lowest score was last week against JLI on a map that he didn't miss on?
Let me take a guess. Is it a 993?
995.7. So to see Nep get a 992 here really speaks volumes to how hard these maps have gotten.
Oh yeah, this pool has definitely upped the ante by a step and a half. I feel the staff are looking at these players, like the poolers looking at these players, like we need to make it so like that Nep can finally see some form of wear and tear on these maps. But I mean, Nep's still managing to absolutely pull off these insane scores. And although it, like you mentioned, that the 902 definitely a bit of a step down from what we saw last week. That is expected. We are in the finals weekend, but still, we still have lots more of this match to play out. And Pavin going to actually not go for a density map here. I feel density would be their strong suit, but maybe just going to stick to the trend of wild cards and going to opt for wildcard 1 here.
Yeah, we are going to see variations on Transcendence. This one actually very spread out. There's a lot of quicker jack sections, unlike what we saw on the last map, but it still kind of reels in a lot of very releasey coordination-y sections as well. So there's a good mix of different variables on this map.
Yeah, a big mix, or like kind of just like a mix-up of like you mentioned, in this map. So I feel maybe Pavin gonna see if they can kind of rely off the same strategy as last map. Hopefully, I mean, like I said, it's gonna take a lot to really go up against a guy like Nepijin, who's been, like I said, undefeated, yet to give up a point. But Pavin definitely stay on Nep's tail when needed. They just need to avoid those judgments of the 200s, even avoiding bursts of 300s. And I mean, with a map like this, where a little bit of these, I guess, walls, you could say, some of these shields in between, and some of these more, I guess, more bursty LNs, a kind of a recipe of finding 200s if you are not careful. But Pavin right now actually taking a slight sliver of lead over Nep. I mean, we just started off this pick, but there is still a lot map left. But Pavin still just showing that they can now compete with Nep. It's a good sign for Pavin, but ooh, there's gonna be a first drop of the map here.
Yeah, really nasty break on one of those key eyes. It's really hard to transition out of some of these sections. You know, you have LN rolls, you have LN density into very LN coordination heavy sections with shields, and you transition into those quickly in and out. And Pavin just couldn't get one of them down, and that led to them going from a 99.84 to dropping their act entirely. They were beating Nepijin by the slightest amount before that harsher section, and to see them go down and be down by 4,500 points, it's gonna definitely put a damper on their stride as Nepijin continues fourth in the realm of 99.84. And I mean, there's just a difference in comfortability. Gonna have to see how this KI section works out for both of them.
Yeah, kind of throwing a monkey wrench into Pavin's score here with that miss, and that's not going to help either with these very fast shields in that build up into the Ki, I believe. And now Nep going to have even more, having some insurance now, a 8,000 point cushion, but we still have a quarter of the map left to go, and Pavin is doing an excellent job on minimizing those accuracy drops. Staying almost in the 99.7 field, actually, despite those couple of drops. And here we go, Ki coming up here, some walls, some releases more staggered than before. And I mean, all it takes is just a couple drops on the side of Nep, and we have a completely different game. But the real million-dollar question, can Nep find them at all? This map is slowly but surely running out, and the more this map drains of time, the more that lead solidifies. And Pavin is just running out of time on this pick.
Exactly. A lot of the rolls caught out Pavin throughout the map, and couldn't be the same for Nepijin as they finish with a 99.83. This is kind of the form that we expect to see from them. Only one grade to their name, as just look at the difference between the bad judgments. I think the MA was decently close, especially when you consider the first half of the map, but it's just really who could keep up with the physicality change.
Yeah, unfortunately, Pavin did find a few of those breaks on those transitions, and then that physical shield section near the Ki put another damper on their score, but still very great score for Pavin. Nep going to take the first break point of this match here, and I could definitely see a coordination pick come out here if they want to add a bit more of insurance, if they feel like they're comfortable enough. But we're actually going to see Tech 2, so still gonna kind of just play around with the map pool here, see where potentially they can really throw a big lead in their favor. Gonna keep those coordinations in their back pocket. I mean, this is now a best of 13, I think, first to 7, so there are plenty more opportunities to strive for those picks, and we're gonna opt for the first tech map of this match. Gonna be Tech 2. Gonna be interesting, actually, because we did see a Tech 1 ban from Pavin, and I mean, I'm seeing that star rating. I don't think I have to iterate how this one will go. And also looking at that mapper, this is going to be a very interesting map, especially with how Imperial does their mapping. I feel it's going to be a very tricky map. I think this is going to be both sides missing on this. But I mean, I tend to eat my own words as soon as I enter the lobby. So let's just see.
No, yeah, this map is evil. I was looking at it in editor earlier, and it's just I open it up and then I see that the snap divisor is set to 1-1, and I'm like, and then I look at some of the snaps, and I believe there are a lot of 1/9 and 1/12 gaps, if I'm not mistaken, with a lot of this song just being full on 4-lane coordination at all times, loads of staggers at every point. It really does not let up, except for like I think there's one break in the middle. So yeah, if you're looking at the accuracies and wondering why both these players aren't doing as well, that's because this map is so hard to act. There's so many different snaps, so many different releases, so many things you have to time, and it's just impossible to get good accuracy on. So really this test for both of these guys is going to be how many 200s can you take off of your play.
Yeah, and with Imperial's mapping style, it's definitely more they just like kind of map off what they're hearing than more or less focusing on like the gimmick of all. They kind of just like, I would say kind of like a freestyle almost. And Pavin going to pick up the first drop on more of these bursty LMs. Like you mentioned, these snappings are brutal, and Pavin going to be the first to slip on some of these like more of these Gracie LNs with these shields sprinkled in here and there. And then again, the accuracy on Pavin, very solid even with a drop. Although this map not very long, so you really need to utilize that accuracy component to its fullest. You don't have much time to deal with some of the hardest patterns that this map will really has to offer. But it does wind down for just a bit for maybe Pavin to catch their breath, gain their accuracy. Same with Nep as well. 99.74 for them, still holding on to their full combo. And heading into our back half here with a 5,000 point difference. That is a miss of difference.
Pretty much, and probably a very dirty miss to exchange in order for Pavin to get back on track. But I like what you were talking about with how this map was very, what Imperial maps very like feelings based / vibe based. You could tell that this is very vocal dubby, especially towards the more noisy sections of the song, where it just, you can feel what Imperial Trinity has crafted on this map, and honestly it looks really fun to play. I can't say, in a tournament setting this might be the most fun map to play considering how choky it can be, but obviously Nepijin doing really well, trying to end this chart off with a bang. Pavin trying to catch up, but we are getting into pretty much the last part, and it's not unlike anything you've seen before. Pavin dropping yet again, Nepijin going for the FC, and will Nepijin take it by storm? Over 10,000 points of a lead. Small 200 at the end, but man, securing that point through strong arming this map. You look at the 200s and you kind of compare it with the first two maps that we saw, and this, you can definitely tell this map was a different beast to these two.
Yeah, and like incredible scores all around the board. Nep still managing to find a way to 990 plus this map. Honestly, what has this man done that or what has this man not done in this tournament is the real question. And Pavin also putting up a very solid score as well, even though those misses did damper their score. Still a very, very solid effort for them, and they are going to use their break in case of emergency here, and going to use the panic button and going to opt for the protect density 1. So we are going to see firsthand Pavin's density ability, and like I mentioned at the beginning of the stream when we were in the protect / ban phase, this is where Pavin plays best in. Their density is really what defines them as one of the greats in this tournament, and against Muka, that's what they utilized in that match. So I feel maybe that pattern will kind of carry to this match against Nep, And although not to really count Nep out at all, because I know Nep can play density just as well as Pavin, but I know Pavin just really shines bright in this skill set.
Yeah, and I like that Pavin protected Density 1 just because it feels, I guess, the most standard compared to the others in terms of scaling from last week. This is the middle of the pack in terms of BPM, and I would also say in terms of patterning. For this week, you have such a large variety of BPMs to choose from when you're in the density section. Obviously, there being 5 density maps, it goes from 220 BPM all the way to 256 BPM. And so when you have that lower range and higher range more than a rate apart in terms of speed, it's really good to choose the middle of the pack one first, just so you can see if you're able to maybe flex into the others to go with next.
Yes, for sure. And opening up with this map here, I just realized this sounds a lot like Ragnarok. I thought this was Ragnarok for like a split second until I saw the name. But anyway, heading into this map, I mean, very textbook density. Like you mentioned, kind of middle of the road density, so not really going all in or going for the more minimal, kind of just right in the middle, see how things go. Just classic full LN like hand stream kind of deal. And right now, Pavin pulling up a very solid accuracy out of the back half, managing to stay within 200% from Nepijin. 99.85 to a 99.87 off of sheer accuracy, and heading into our second half here where things do get a bit more middle column heavy. So Pavin managing to now be within I saw 100th of a percentage of difference here. It can take just a singular 200 to really throw things in a different lane here, but oh man.
Oh man, indeed. We are at the final section. You see a lot of these weirder anchors, sometimes in the inside columns, sometimes in the outside columns. A lot of middle column tricks, as you said, as well. Lots of trills, 2 entries, 1 trills, and it's trying to end off Pavin with a rush of 200s at that last pattern. It was really close throughout, but yeah, I think picked up, I believe, 3 grades at the end. So it wouldn't have mattered, but Pavin really did have a good showing. The most competitive map by far, kept it within a couple hundred points for the entirety of the chart, just couldn't finish it off, and just slightly worse accuracy than Nepijin. They should feel pretty good about that though.
Yeah, even though probably wasn't the outcome Pavin expected for this map, still very amazing score. 9-9, I believe it was a 9-9-3 from Pavin, and Nep, I think 9-9-5 if I recall correctly. And very solid efforts. Now Nep kind of has the mental note on how Pavin does go along with this map pool, and they are going to press their luck here. Gonna opt for Density 4.
Kind of surprised with Density pick considering how close it was. And you look at the other maps available, you see that Nepijin still has his Protect up. He still has a lot of good maps in the tech section where I think the physicality of Nepijin beats out Pavin. And also you combine kind of like their innate accuracies. I'm not so sure about Density 4. What do you think about it, Sonny?
I also feel this is a bit of a gamble on the side of Nepijin. I thought this is where the coordinations maybe start coming out, but no. We're going to see the likings of Density 4 come out here. And this could be a bit of an interesting run here. I would probably assume this will be the likings of what we saw in the previous Density map, where it's only by a difference of a few hundredths of a percentage. And this one being a lot more wall-oriented than the last map just being pure, like, inner column releases. But we're kind of seeing the correlation with the previous density pick. And Pavin, a really nasty accuracy drop and a nasty note lock as well on those inner column patterns. Gonna drop their act down to a 98 out of the first quarter. And disaster strikes early for Pavin here.
Exactly, probably one of the most devastating things that can happen to you. And it seemed like Pavin was struggling just a little bit in that really intense Ki and just absolutely flubbed that entire section. Whereas Nepijin feels really good. So now you start to kind of see the picture that Nepijin had in mind when he was choosing this map. A whole percentage of difference. And I was going to say something about how Graham was the artist in both of the density picks that we saw back to back. It's just that Pavin right now weighed down by a ton.
Yeah, Pavin really needing 1,000,001 forces to really make the comeback of a century for a map like this. And I think when you're up against a player like Nepijin, there's not really such thing as the 1,000,001 forces helping you here, as they are probably the strongest when it comes to just having that pure consistency. And Pavin on the more wall heavy sections here, managing to nail that one down, up that to 400 combo count. But I think that nasty accuracy drop from the first third will just be enough to really, I mean, you can see the score says for itself, 26k points in favor of Nepijin. So we're gonna have to see something catastrophic will happen to Nep. But I mean, time's running out and the map not really as dense as previous, just mainly the textbook density here, more or less, with the more inner column tricking up Pavin yet again. And another pretty sloppy accuracy drop there for Pavin as well. Heading into the final 30k here, Nepijin gonna come out here bold, almost a 99.9 in AC.
Yeah. What is that score? 996 from Nepijin, their highest score so far. You kind of see the dichotomy between both of them, right? This is the highest score from Nepijin in this round, whereas for Pavin, they couldn't keep up with the physicality. You were talking about how there were a lot of walls in this chart. Well, Pavin hit multiple in a physical sense. Just could not keep up, a lot of misses, and you could tell that it was just due to sheer physical difference between both of them. So Nepijin with that 5-0 lead. This could be really bad for Pavin because this is Pavin's potential last pick, and they're gonna go with coordination 1.
Interesting on the side of Pavin. I mean, of course, I did talk a lot about Pavin's density, but like I said, these players are both like well known for how insanely well they are just when it comes to LN as a whole, where they can kind of just pick maps out of a hat or spin a wheel, and they are satisfied with whatever map it is. And Pavin going to do a very bold move here. Like you mentioned, this could potentially be their last pick of this match here if Nep ends up going for that sweep. But I'm not really opposed to a map like this, although kind of seeing that Nep did protect one of our coordination picks, it is a bit frightening, to say the least.
Frightening indeed, and I should point out this is the highest OD map in the pool. Coordination 1 is kind of just like that pure coordination pick throughout the rounds. So gonna have to see how Pavin feels about that, because it's kind of weird seeing him pick this when coordination 2 it was the protect of Nepijin.
Yeah, this is going to be pretty much a do or die for Pavin here. And honestly, I mean, with these more slower tempo coordination picks, it is a lot more 200 heavy, so maybe Pavin is looking at an angle to maybe see if Nepijin can drop some 200s, maybe on just these releases being a bit too slower than anticipated. And also, like you mentioned, with the combination of this being the highest rated OD of the pool, it can definitely spell some disaster here for the accuracy component. Right now, Pavin actually facing a bit of the errors here. Down in that 99.7 range, I believe, with a few 200s in their belt, so their ratio, I would assume, up to par with Nep, maybe just a bit behind if they manage to be at a 99.7 range with just a few 200s.
Yeah, this map very weird to play through. Again, obviously, as I said, OD9, but then you have these super weird isolated releases while you're anchored at a bunch of different columns at the same time, and then you have some slow inverse to go along with it. The song is very distressed, very freeform in terms of the snapping. A lot of offbeat releases, so it feels super weird to play through, and it really shows with Pavin's gameplay where there's this very small moments of uneasiness with how the song is gonna go, and you could tell that they just like mistime it by just a little bit and then hit that 200. So we're in one of these slower sections again, and it's just, you see the difference between Nepijin and Pavin, and you really hope that Pavin can get their accuracy back up because there's not a lot of time left.
Yeah, the map does pick up in a bit more of a denser way near the final third of this map, and there is still tons of map left to go. Pavin sitting at a 99.68 at the current moment here, while Nep just a roughly 0.2% ahead. But a 4,000 point difference is not really much if you really put in the correlation of if Nep gives up a break somehow anywhere in this map, maybe just being caught off guard by some of these bursts, or just the natural tempo of this map being a lot slower than anticipated. It is entirely possible. There is still map left to go, but as the map drains on longer and longer, that lead will increase on the side of Nep. And Pavin still roughly sitting around that 99.6 range, not being able to gain, while Nep has been climbing up their axe slowly. Pavin still holding on to that FC as we get into a more fuller inverse section here to close off this map. And if no error is found on Nep's side, that will bring them to a match point situation.
And indeed it will. Nepijin, you talked about how he hasn't dropped a point yet this tournament. We thought Pavin would be the best fit in taking a point, and there were a couple of maps that were pretty close, but I think the story has been so far in this set that Nepijin is just so good at accuracy plus consistency, and to almost half Pavin's 300s on a map like this in finals against seed 2, like they're it's just so hard to stop the oncoming train known as Nepijin. And he's going to pick Coordination 2, his Protect, as the potential final pick. He's going to try to close it out on his own terms.
Yeah, Nepijin really getting probably given the best hand possible in the deck here. Getting the match point situation, and then immediately falling under their pick, which still keeping the Protect on the board for this situation here. Coordination 2 going to be the pick. Nepijin looking to close the door and punch at least, at minimum, a silver medal in this tournament and move on to that winners grand finals, while Pavin looking to stay alive for another day in this winners bracket. I mean, I have seen a lot of comeback situations in my time of commentating this tournament, so it looks like a Hail Mary, but trust me, if you see a guy by the name of Miyuka, you'll be in the same situation as me.
Exactly, and well, this map very like inverse heavy, lots of jack anchors on certain columns, and you kind of see that with how this song is structured. Currently, Nepijin doing pretty well right now, 99.84, right? But Pavin does have a smaller distance than usual between the both of them, so definitely salvageable by them.
Yeah, and I believe that's like been like our ongoing trend with this match. As I was gonna say Pavin usually tends to just stay a bit, just a bit on Nep's tail, just a bit behind, willing to capitalize anything that Nep ends up giving up. But there's, I believe, a few breaks on the side of Pavin, and Client trying to sync everything up. And there's another break. I don't know if that was Bancho or not, but we will have to wait for the Client to kind of restart. And I don't think that was a Bancho miss, but there's an actual miss on the side of Nep. I just realized they're down at the 99.6 range here, while Pavin struggling to hit 99.3 here. And it just makes me think, if Pavin were to still be on an FC run, would they be in the driver's seat for the first time in this match? But there is still lots of map left to go. Like you said, very jack heavy, so very, very choke based if you are not careful on those jacks.
Yeah, I mean, you even see it as Nepijin dropped the first time in this match, having a couple times throughout this map as well. What needs to happen is Nepijin needs to miss a couple more times, and I think that is definitely possible. A couple more jack sections to go along with it, and Nepijin seems a little uneasy, especially when you look at the speed of this map. There's only one more section left though, so it's going to be really tough for Pavin to make a comeback. Still very much so doable.
Yeah, like I mentioned, it's not the end of the world here for Pavin. There is still plenty of map left to go. Although this lead is in the 5-digit range on the side of Nepijin, if they manage to find some form of chain miss on these shields and these bursts, it could favor Pavin, as they are slowly but surely climbing that accuracy here. 99.42, just about 0.2% behind Nep. But the map concludes. The LNs fall for one last time, in Nepijin going to pull off a sweep here against Pavin, still undefeated. They went 7 for 7 this match and yet to give up a point in this tournament. But Pavin definitely was Nep's closest to giving up a point here in this match. Nep's still undefeated.
Yeah, Pavin definitely giving them a run for their money on some of these categories, but unfortunately, the sweep still comes out. So Nepijin moving on to grand finals in the winner's side. Will anyone be able to stop this guy from taking this tournament in massive fashion? We still have to find out, because there's plenty more matches left this weekend. Pavin dropping to the losers bracket. We still have Muchi versus Spanner Dude in about 40-ish minutes. And once that is done, the winner of that match, because that is a losers bracket match, will go on to face Konkawa, and that would be tomorrow.
Yeah, so with that, we will be back at 19:30 UTC for Muchi, aka Muka, versus Spanner Dude, also known as Ting Momentum, to round out that losers bracket to see who will go up against Konkawa tomorrow, like you mentioned. But for now, we can wrap a bow on this stream and end it here. As always,
exactly.
I've been Aris Sudney, commenting along with Dynascape. We will see you all later.